you're going to find what you're looking for. And that just bleeds into everything: business, your relationships, your children, your marriage, your work teammates, everything. How you structure your life, you're going to find what you're looking for.
Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs on their journey from millions to billions. And we believe that the key to scaling your business and wealth starts every single day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you compound your wealth in life so you can give more or all of it away to help MVPs. My name is Brett Swartz. On each and every episode, we feature the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires, where they share their secrets, wisdom, and insights with us so we can achieve all of the above, which is a lot, but we want to help you do that. And we're on the journey with you because we're on that journey from millions to billions. And we're excited for our next guest. She's out of the great state of Texas, and she is going to help us streamline HubSpot operations if you're running HubSpot. And she's going to talk us into why we should use HubSpot here in a second, and why it's not too expensive, and why you should be using it if you're running a property management company, real estate company, or anything that has to do with basically that world, and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Heather Park. Heather, how are we doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Brett. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. I'm the CEO of Geekly Media. I am married to my husband, Michael. We have 5 kids and a dog, and a crazy life. We love HubSpot. We love marketing automation solutions, operational automation solutions. And our goal is to help businesses grow and scale through the use of HubSpot. And really, at the end of the day, what we're looking to do is help people do more with less. We want you to be able to scale your business as high and as successful as you'd like it to be, without having to add the overhead and the cost that's traditionally required to do so.
Okay, this is going to be so cool because I was once a HubSpot user, and then they got so expensive, and then I went to this. I mean, I'm out. We'll geek out about that here in a second. But before we go through all that, man, how did you get started in this? Like, talk to us about the passion for this, because this is near and dear, and it should be to every entrepreneur's heart, to how to make things more seamless and clear and clean and crisp, and all of the things. You don't have to think about the things. You can think about the big things, right? So walk us through,
Exactly.
a little bit of your journey to becoming an operational expert in HubSpot.
Yeah, so it was not a linear path by any means. I was a petroleum geologist working in the oil and gas industry when I met my husband, Michael. He was operating a property management company, and I decided it was time for a change. So I ended up co-owning a property management company with Michael. And in 2016, we sold that organization and opened what was RentBridge, which is now Geekly Media, really as a consulting firm. And our goal with that was to help single-family residential property management companies just grow and scale through not necessarily automated solutions, but streamlined and documented solutions. What we tended to run into is that there really wasn't a platform. There wasn't a single source of information where our clients could execute on the recommendations that we were providing. And, honestly, at the time, we were using what we called lovingly the poor man's Salesforce. And it was duct tape and hope and fairy dust and Zapier and Zoho and spreadsheets and 13 different logins to run our pretty successful property management company. What we were looking for a long time was a system and a platform that we could really centralize all of our operations. We didn't find it, not easily anyway. And my husband, being who he is, decides that we're going to build it ourselves. And so I made a point to remind him regularly that we were not a software company. That was not our goal. And in 2017, HubSpot came out with a new hub. It was a new release of the Service Hub. And we had this light bulb moment of, holy cow, you really can build an operational system in this CRM. So really, that was the turning point for our platform search, and was the first step in the direction of us being more of an implementation organization rather than just a consulting organization. And of course, HubSpot, has grown and scaled since then. They've now offer the CMS, so you can host your website there. They offer the Ops Hub, so you can truly custom code your automations and really integrate anything you want to. So at the end of the day, it's a business operating system. It's no longer a marketing tool or a sales tool. It's an everything tool. And so
Okay.
we love to roll it out.
I'm actually excited to talk about this. So let's start with the big one. The big one for, I think, a lot of people, go high level, right? They're using go high
Yeah.
level,
Hmm.
and it's, compare and contrast these for
Yeah.
those, and, walk us through pros and cons. Let's just start with that one right there.
Yeah. So go high level, having never been, just full disclosure, never been an actual user myself. I've done tours and demos and used client accounts and things like that. But as far as being a day-to-day user, I'm not your girl. I drank the orange Kool-Aid a long time ago and never looked back. But at the end of the day, Go High Level is a fantastic solution for the smaller companies, the people that are not necessarily looking for truly sophisticated integrations or custom integration type work. It's also a great tool if you're really looking for that mass level of marketing, or at least being able to scale your marketing efforts. It's a good operational CRM from that perspective. What we find is that the barriers that our clients run into is secondary and tertiary levels of automation. So in your go high levels, your what's the pipe drive and monday.com and all these really great platforms, they do a great job of managing data and putting a system in place that you can easily use on a regular basis, and even take it to the level of automation from the extent that they can automate messaging and they can automate reactions in the beginning. What we find is that when you get to the interpretive automation, meaning not necessarily like AI or anything like that, but really having the ability to predict what a user is or is not going to do, and then take that secondary, tertiary automation step, that's where HubSpot's going to blow everybody else out of the water. That tiered level of layered, nested reactions and automation based on what the end user is doing or not doing. That's where HubSpot really
Okay, you've got
prevails.
to give us an example of that, because I think that sounds really cool. But what does that look like in practicality?
Yeah, so if you look at a typical funnel, you've got somebody coming into the top of the funnel and they'll take an interest in this or download that or what have you. Almost any marketing automation tool can automate that. They'll automatically deliver the download. They'll send the thank you email. They'll XYZ, whatever it is that your automation requires. What doesn't happen is the true lead scoring capabilities, the messaging based on how long they spent on a certain email, or which download they started with versus what they go to next. Did they skip a step in the funnel? So really being able to interpret their goal based on the action and putting goal-based automation in place rather than just action-based automation. That's where HubSpot really comes into play and can
Mm.
just really shine.
Okay, so strategic sequencing of the next step versus just in data for what was skipped, what was not skipped, versus just they knocked on this door, sent them this email. They knocked on this door, sent them this PDF. Interesting. Okay. Um, okay. What else? What else would be the differences there between the two?
I would say from a reporting capabilities perspective, that's again one of those things that we fought the attribution reporting fight for years and years. For the first 7+ years of us being an agency, getting the answer to what is your cost per lead was so much harder than it needed to be. And really factoring in all of the different variables that contribute to that answer to get the real answer. If you're spending $10,000 a month on marketing and you get 10 leads and you want to call your cost per lead $1,000 per lead, okay, kind of, but what channels were you using? Where did those leads actually come from? Where did they convert? What did they do between the time that they initiated their interest and then their final conversion? So was it really $1,000 per lead, or did two of your channels have anything to do with this at all? And so in reality, it was much higher than that. Are you paying an agency? Are you factoring in labor? All of those things truly contribute to your cost per lead and your cost of acquisition. And there's not a CRM on the planet outside of HubSpot that we found so far that can natively give you that calculation. And it's not an easy out of the box reporting tool that just exists in HubSpot, but because of the ability to garner the data, house the data, and then leverage that data within the same system, you're able to run those calculations successfully.
Okay, so this all sounds really cool and fancy, but I think one of the questions that my entrepreneurial clients will have is, oh my gosh, like how many full-time people do I need to run this, even if I want to do all this, Heather? Because this is overwhelming, right? Like, I mean, or is it just like a CMO? I mean, like what does it take on the org chart, before someone shows up and they're like, yeah, I want to do all this stuff. You're like, all right, let me ask you a couple qualifying questions. How many employees do you have? What's your revenue? Like, give us like the minimum here before we can just maybe have some people check out, but maybe some people dive in more.
Yeah, so that's going to be a multifaceted answer. And the first part of it is it depends. I know everybody loves that answer, but it depends on what's your end goal. If your end goal is that level of sophistication and really being able to drill down to the dollar and attribute not just your revenue, but the quality and the qualification of these leads back to those campaigns, that's where you're going to want to look at it from both a budget perspective and a capabilities perspective. Because if you don't have the humans, that's okay. You can find those humans by hiring an agency or outsourcing in some way. But if your goal is to have all of that in-house, then you're going to need to look at it from the perspective of what is your revenue today? What is your current overhead? Are you willing to throw bodies at it? What we typically say is if your marketing budget, and that includes your tech spend, if your marketing budget is less than around 5K a month, this is something that you're probably going to want to hire either a couple of in-house people or maybe outsource to an agency and have a single in-house person. But you really do need to have somebody on the inside driving the conversation and driving the goal setting. The thing I tell everyone not to do is to just trust your agency, which is terrible because I'm an agency owner. But at the end of the day, I'm not your business's owner. I'm my business's owner. So for you to come to me and say, just tell me what to do, and then not participate in the ongoing evolution of those answers and those tactics and those goals, it's not going to get you where you're looking to go. You might grow, you probably will grow, but you're not going to be able to scale, and you're not going to have your arms around your business if you just have an agency handle it all.
I think that's the biggest thing for growing companies is having the people that they can trust to run the thing that they know they need, but is like overwhelming to think about. Like, I get approached with it all the time. I'm like, wow, that sounds incredible. And they'll be like, you should do it. I'm like, yeah, and like, who's the person? Like, hire the who, don't be the how. And then you do it third party versus bring it in house. So when you're making these decisions about the agency versus bringing it in house, or like how do you help entrepreneurs, get clarity on that?
Yeah, so again, it's going to come back to goals. Is your goal long-term to have your entire marketing department or entire technology department in-house? If that's the goal, then there's baby steps that you can take to get there. I would also never advise anyone to go out and hire an entire marketing team all at once with all the different seats that you need. That's the opposite end of the spectrum of just trusting your agency, and neither are good. So we look at it from the standpoint of what's the end goal? Are you wanting to have it in-house or not? If you want to have it in-house, okay, what's the first most crucial hire? And that's going to be, if you're working with an agency, that's going to be somebody that's the idea person, the goal person, the person that knows what the financial goal is, what the revenue needs to look like, and where it needs to come from, and in what time frame. So your business decisions, your highest level of business decisions in the marketing department, maybe it's a CMO, maybe it's just a marketing director, but somewhere along those lines, that would be generally our recommendation. If you have no one, that would be where to start. Somebody that can direct and run the conversation, at least with your agency. You want to be able to trust that they're having the conversations with the people that you've hired in the right way and keeping the best interest of your business in mind. So call it a cheerleader, call it a sponsor, call it a CMO, marketing director, whatever. Somebody on the inside that has your best interest in mind that can work directly with your outside hires or your agency to make sure that all of those interests are being aligned.
Okay. So if Heather were looking for a marketing director to refer to these companies, where do you go? Do you go to tech marketing director? Do you go to a real estate marketing director? Like, where do you go? Do you someone that has the HubSpot, obviously the knowledge, like they need at least 3 to 5 years, like the revenue that they manage, like when you're interviewing this person, like what do you, because I think most entrepreneurs, they're naturally going to find the salesperson. They're kind of probably, the executive assistant, the CFO, the COO, yeah. But talk about the CMO or just this marketing director, because that may be a little bit vague for people.
Yeah, and it is one of the more difficult hires just due to the nature of the work that's being done. It's extremely technical, it's extremely granular, and it's really easy to just get a little overwhelmed and kind of throw your hands in the air. So again, the answer is, it depends. If you're a software company, if you're a prop tech company, your end goal is going to be very different than a service-oriented business. So depending on what it is that you're selling, and just for the purposes of this conversation, let's call it prop tech for a second. That's going to be a very data-driven person. That's going to be somebody that can really drill into the details. Their focus absolutely needs to be on revenue attribution and cost of acquisition. That's a different hire than maybe a service-based company that's really looking to grow and scale, not just what they're offering, but how they're offering it, and needing to be able to scale the fulfillment team along with that. So you've got to measure your and kind of keep in mind your growth versus overhead. So a little bit of a different conversation as compared to the SaaS person. So I would identify what's the highest need, and is it data oriented? Is it a platform? We have that conversation internally, or had for many, many years. Do we want to hire somebody that's got industry experience and train them on HubSpot? Or do we want to hire somebody that's got HubSpot experience and train them on the industry? Full disclosure, we've done both. These days, we recommend hiring the HubSpot experience and training on the industry. That has served us extremely well. And it's not what we did for the majority of our existence. We went after the industry experience first and tried to train on the tools. And what we found is those mindsets are very different. It's a different person that's great at a service organization as compared to somebody that's extremely analytical and data oriented.
Oh, that's so good. That's so helpful, right? By the way, if you guys want to find out how you want to hire the who, not be the how, you should go and connect with Heather by going to geeklymedia.com. That's geeklymedia.com. Man, I'm loving this conversation. I think it's so needed to keep peace of mind. Talk about the impact you make for clients, and the entrepreneurs you work with, and what it means to you when they say, wow, Heather, you've turned, what used to keep me up at night to a standstill because it's all there. And I can clearly see the data, that it's there. I don't have to guess at the data anymore.
Exactly. The things that we hear along those lines the most are often about visibility, meaning for the first time ever, our clients are able to truly wrap their heads around the entire organization. And that's done, frankly, through HubSpot's reporting capabilities. And I think what makes Geekly different than just a typical, marketing agency, and we're not, we're a software development company as well as a marketing agency and just a strategic business partner. But the main difference is we start with that end in mind. What is the data that you need to be able to make your decisions on an ongoing basis without having to use a spreadsheet, without having to ask 14 different people for information? What are your numbers? And then let's build those reports and work backwards to develop the processes to feed those reports. And I know that sounds for some people a little bit, again, backwards, but if we don't have the data for you to make decisions, you're ill-equipped to do your job. And that's the last place that any business owner wants to be in. So visibility is the thing that we hear the most. And then ultimately growth. Our goal is to help you grow. People come to us for one of two reasons. Either they need to scale, which again, can be growth, but it can also just be operational issues, or they need to grow. So that scalability and that growth, they both kind of speak back to the data itself. So working with the right people in the right order, walking through these day in the life interviews and making sure that each department is being addressed, each pain point at each department level is being addressed, and finding it and tying it all back to the numbers so that you're not just you as the business owner, but your team can make the decisions that they need to make in a reasonable amount of time. And it all funnels up from there. So I'd say it starts there.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. Okay. Got it. I've got the concept here. Start with the data end in mind, right? And then build processes that lead to getting what your goal is for that data on the outside to make good decisions and have your whole team be able to see that. Right people, right order, all makes sense. Visibility, truly wrap your head around the entire organization. So give us a case study, right? Because I want to make this now practical. So what's the case study of this? Estimated revenue, you don't have to share client details, but estimated revenue, estimated, team members, and then they hire Heather and boom, you come in. And what does it look like, on the week to week, day to day, quarter to quarter, HubSpot integration, what are they seeing? Are they seeing their financials and their revenue and their expenses? Are they seeing obviously their marketing spend and their cost per lead? Like paint the picture of an actual deal that a client that you've serviced.
Yeah. So one of the earliest and probably most common examples is a case study out of one of our clients in the southern states. They're a single-family residential property management company. When they started with us, they had 550 doors, and they had 5 people in their leasing and operations department. Something happened. To this day, I still don't know what. But all five of those people left all at the same time. And we heard about it. It was over a break. I can't remember which holiday it was, but it was a pretty significant break. And so we heard about it when we came back, which meant, by then everything was on fire. And we had to just buckle down and really speed up the implementation of what we were planning on implementing anyway, which is a product that we sell called PMOS. It stands for Property Management Operating System. At that point, they were able to take the ownership of the company and the two other people that they had still working there. So it was four people total, and not even replace the five that left. So from an overhead perspective, that was their biggest windfall, was not even having to, because our typical clients have to wait to grow into their new profitability, their new realization of that financial boost. This particular client, without having to fire anyone, fortunately, was able to immediately see the impact of that by not having to replace that level of staff. So that was a huge win for them. But in general, for our PMOS clients, and just kind of staying on that note for a moment, we traditionally see 3 times the number of doors per head post-implementation as compared to pre-implementation. Now, that's an average. It's a pretty broad range there because, as you can imagine, the smaller guys, they're going to have a much different experience than somebody that starts out with, 5,000 doors to begin with. So percentage-wise, that's going to vary quite a bit. But on average, across the board, over about 300,000 doors, which is the aggregate of all of the doors that our services have touched, about 3 times the number of doors per head. When you take it outside of property management, it falls between 2 and 3 times, and it's just revenue at that point. It's growth and operational efficiencies along with revenue is between 2 and 3 times increase.
Okay, this is awesome. Now, how does it compare to Smartsheet, or something like that? Give us a little bit of comparison on that.
I am if nothing else, I'm a spreadsheet lover. So Smartsheet kind of just speaks my language a little bit. I've always loved it. Where it falls short is going to be the collaboration point. So being able to cross departments, being able to stay in one system. And obviously I'm super biased to HubSpot, so I compare everything there. But when you're looking at it from a project management tool perspective, it's not comparable to a marketing automation tool. But having that level of organization, if you don't have a traditional marketing automation tool or a sales automation tool, man, I'm a huge fan of Smartsheets in terms of just keeping people on track and organized and being able to report up that data.
So when do you need like a Smartsheet project management software focus versus a HubSpot? And when can HubSpot just do it all?
I would say, and this is a number I'm completely making up percentage-wise, but I'd say 90+% of our clients do not have a project management tool of any kind. They only use HubSpot.
Okay.
Where that differentiates, in my opinion, and this is purely opinion-based, is the level of service that you're providing. So us as an agency, we have a project management tool. Well, that's because every account we service is traditionally long-term service, and it's sprints and milestones, and that's very, very traditional use case of a project management tool. That's not what HubSpot is designed to do. But outside of really that use case, that's the only time that we've ever found our clients needing a project management tool is if the tasks and the requirements for true fulfillment are so granular and time-bound that you need a more traditional project management tool.
Give us an example of what you mean by that. What do you mean by so granular and time-bound? Give me a live or a actual case study.
Yeah. So if you need something done in a certain order and the next step can't be taken until the step before it happens. So not only is it time-based and time-bound, but it's dependent. So having multiple layers of dependencies. That's not something that a CRM or a sales automation tool or a marketing automation tool is designed to do. Could you rig it? Yes, because I did. But that's not the point of HubSpot. So that, I would say, when you have multiple layers of dependencies and multiple levels of time-bound scenarios is when a project management tool is just going to serve you better.
So like, for example, if you're like an escrow, a real estate professional or whatever, you're dealing with transactions, and there's certain things that have to hit by certain time frames and contingencies are removed. And then if this, and then so it's very, very basically these are the, 50 steps or 25 steps, then it's okay. That wouldn't be a good thing for a HubSpot per se.
It actually is.
Oh, tell me more. What do you mean by that then? Yeah.
That's a great example, actually. So
Okay.
that is the project management world that will fit into the HubSpot world,
Okay.
mainly because you're not necessarily having to have a client log in and take an action somewhere.
Okay.
They might need to review a document and hit a button saying yes or no, but they
Yeah.
don't need to come in and make comments on graphics or
Right.
ask certain questions and get feedback and things like that. That's much more, like I said, agency oriented stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to that kind of dependency, like this task is complete, so now trigger the next task for the next
Yeah.
person. That's HubSpot all day long. That's deal
Okay.
pipelines and task management
Mm-hmm.
inside of the CRM itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say maybe that difference isn't necessarily just the tasking and the dependencies, but who is involved and what level of activity they have to do inside the system as an outside user, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
What about like post close? Like, so let's say you have like an investor base and then, they're all owed a certain amount of dollars, or they have a certain amount of distributions
Yeah.
per month.
Mm-hmm.
And also like, a certain amount of capital is going to these different groups, and then trying to see them all, like how much capital is with
Yeah.
this group, how much capital is with this group.
Yeah.
And then like managing like payments back to people, and connecting
Mm-hmm.
with like, third party, like a Schwab or a bank account or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Talk about HubSpot's world with like post close fulfillment of payments.
Yeah, so in that world of distributions, the calculation and the automation of triggering that the distributions need to be sent, that's a fantastic use case of HubSpot. Even being able to aggregate the data by portfolio, by asset, by fund, whatever, however you need to look at it, that's absolutely manageable. And managing those calculations inside of HubSpot is a great use case. Where we say to stop using HubSpot is the actual transfer of the money. And that's more along the lines of a Geekly requirement than anything. If we have a client that we run into that truly wants the funds to run through HubSpot, we're not going to say no, but we are going to strongly recommend that you speak with your attorney and check your state regulations and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we stay out of that part of it, but it is possible. HubSpot does have a payment processing tool. It's fantastic. It runs through Stripe, so you would definitely need to check your state and local regulatory requirements there, because it's not
Yeah.
your Stripe account, it's HubSpot's Stripe account
Mm-hmm.
that it's being processed through. So just a
Okay.
little caveat there. I'll take off I'm not an attorney hat beyond
Yeah.
that, but aggregating that data, calculating the distributions, the payments, tracking those historically, even before that, if you're needing to run capital calls, all of that is heavily managed inside of HubSpot.
Okay, and it can track like what's been done in the past, like or you
Mm-hmm.
missed the payment, or or it was or it was too high or too low or something, or hey,
Yep.
okay, so it's gonna see and connect to your accounts to be able to
Yes.
tell you what's going on and what needs to happen. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
Depending on what platform that is. Like we
Yeah.
connect with, your property management platforms, we connect with other commercial real estate platforms. But if it's something that can't be connected with, then we'll just do it through email parsers, through reporting updates and things along those lines. But thus far, we haven't run into an accounting system of any kind that we couldn't integrate with.
Okay, I have a question about like the email marketing side of things, right? So I feel like some of them, like Active Campaign, I had that for a while, and it seemed like much higher delivery rate, much higher, less like go into like the spam or the junk folder.
Mm-hmm.
And then Go High Level, like it's not as great. I don't know if that was because of what I did or didn't do or whatever when I switched over. But talk about HubSpot and that whole world of like, trying to get white labeled and all this thing and the junk mail. And I feel like if I just go to Gmail and I just send it directly from Gmail, it delivers. And then if I go it through the Agent Hub or, it won't, and I do love about HubSpot, I believe this is something you just touched on for the listeners, that you can literally do everything inside of it, right? You don't have to go to the Gmail. So talk about that part of like the full use of your email versus like I think like one of them, you can't BCC or you can't CC, you can only do direct. And you're like, well, that defeats the purpose. Like, why would I ever do any email inside? I'm always CC or BC and see somebody inside of inside of a Go High Level. You know what I mean? So talk to that.
Yeah. So yes, you can CC or BCC inside of HubSpot for transactional emails. I think that's probably what we're talking about here, but that's the major difference: transactional versus automated. So if you go into Gmail and you just send an email directly to somebody, whoever, it doesn't matter. That's a one-to-one transactional email. Mm-hmm. If you go into HubSpot or any marketing automation tool, and you're sending it to a larger group of people, even if it's just a handful, but it's an automated email going out en masse, that's a marketing or an automated email. So transactional versus automated. And maybe not automated is the right word for it, even though it is, but it's more along the lines of a marketing email. Those two deliverability processes are completely different. HubSpot's email sending deliverability is the highest on the market of any platform right now that even tracks that. So you're getting the luxury of being able to use an email sending provider that is just very well known and has an incredible score. So that in and of itself is going to be a big help. However, there's still rules. There's still processes that you have to follow. Their goal, high level HubSpot, it doesn't matter who it is. Their goal is to protect their own deliverability rates and make sure that you're following the rules and the laws according to how they're written. So they don't want you spamming a bunch of people. So if you indicate that kind of behavior with a bunch of people that have not opted in and your spam rates get too high, or you just have a lot of hard bounces because it's not good data, you're going to get dinged for that. They're going to, put you in little HubSpot jail for a little while, or high level jail, or whatever you want to call it. And just make sure that you understand what you're doing and what went wrong and what you need to do differently in the future. So there's that kind of concept. Beyond that, it's making sure that you understand what those deliverability rates actually mean. So the difference between, I don't know, call it a Pipedrive or a Monday.com or one of these, I would say productivity oriented tools versus a marketing automation tool, they're not as focused on deliverability rates as somebody like a HubSpot or a high level would be. So all in all, they're giving you what seems to be a legitimate deliverability rate. What they're not factoring in is all of the new first party and third party cookie issues that we're running into now. So I don't know if you've ever looked in a HubSpot, or I'm not sure if high level goes quite this far, but when you see, I just sent this email to somebody and it says they've opened it 16 times. Okay. Odds are they probably have not opened it 16 times. Odds are they've got either a firewall in place, or they've got some sort of app on their phone, or maybe they're just using the most updated privacy policies in Apple. That's going to filter essentially that message, that email, multiple times. And so it's going to look like a bunch of sends, and it's going to look like a really high deliverability rate. It's going to look like it successfully delivered over and over again to all of these different end users. Well, HubSpot wants you to know the real truth. And so they're going to factor all of that in, and it is going to maybe artificially lower what your deliverability rate might look like, but it's the real deliverability rate. It's showing you all of those firewalls that it didn't get through. It's showing you all of those systems and processes that tried to filter it out, even if they were successful or not. And it's going to look like your deliverability rate is artificially lower than it actually is, but it's the truth. So when you look at other platforms and they say your deliverability rate is so much higher, you've really got to start to question, okay, well, are you factoring in first party, third party, open rates, et cetera, and whether or not it was a send all the way through the first level of a firewall, or if it was actually all the way through to an inbox. Because if it delivers through to the server, but not the inbox, that's still, if you're looking at artificially high rates, that's still going to be factored in. Whereas in HubSpot, it wouldn't. That would say that it wasn't delivered because it wasn't.
That's awesome. By the way, real fast, we're going to land this plane here in a second. If you want to connect with Heather, you can go to geeklymedia.com, geeklymedia.com. It's Heather Park, everybody. Let's land the plane here. Okay. So someone says, okay, Heather, I want to do it, right? What's the cost for everything? So it's HubSpot, it's hiring you to help implement it, to get the whole thing. What's the time commitment? What time to set it up? Like, give us just general. I know it all depends, but maybe just give me like down the middle on average. It's going to be about this and about that and about these many people you need to have ready to go, kind of thing.
Yeah. Again, yes, you're right. It depends. I would say I'm going to give you the low end, the high end, the average, and then a little bit just of a flavor there. On the low end, somebody that comes in and says, I just want you to set up my sales pipelines, period. That's probably going to be, well under 5K, maybe closer to 3K, and it's a one and done situation. There's not an ongoing retainer. You're on your own at that point. You're welcome to handle it however you'd like to. Everything that we build, you own. On the higher end, we have companies that come in and say, I want you to get me out of this platform and out of that platform, and I want you to merge all of our operations into HubSpot. And that's easily a $300,000 or $400,000 deployment. That's a large company, large scale. That's the higher end of our services. The average for our types of clients is somebody that's going to come in and say, I want you to set up our sales tools, our marketing tools, our service tools, and maybe get our first couple of campaigns up and running. That'll be, a 3 to 6 month timeline. That's somewhere around 5 to 10K a month. And it does heavily depend on how much you're wanting us to create for you versus you creating content and handing it to us and then we just execute. It also depends on how well do you know your business. Am I, as CEO of Geekly Media, sitting on a call walking through your service processes with you because you don't know them and they're not documented? Or did you come to me with a fully documented blueprint and everything's just ready to execute and we just need to help you, massage it a little bit? That's going to be a big difference in cost structure there. But on average, between 5 to 10K, our typical retainer is 6 to 12 months.
Awesome. Heather Park, this has been amazing. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure, let's go.
All right, knowing what you know now, if you go to your 20-year-old self, back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one gold nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Oh, it's okay to not know. It's okay to not know and figure it out later. You don't have to know it all right now.
Love it. Question number 2, what's the number one book you've recommended the most in the past year?
Oh my gosh, that one's hard. What have I been reading? I've been on this STR kick for a little while, trying to, we own short-term rentals ourselves as investors. And there was one that was talking about, you're killing me. I hate that I don't know this name. It was talking about your first guest experience. I'm totally losing it though. Let me come back to it. I'll find it for you. Hopefully we can send it out in the show notes because it was fantastic. And it was all about setting up your process and automation, shocking, in your guest management platform.
Okay, awesome. Great. Number one way you're using ChatGPT?
Oh my gosh, I use ChatGPT for everything. So I use ChatGPT, I've been told, different than the average human. I like to have chat help me make sure that I'm checking myself. I run multiple businesses. I have multiple brands that I'm working on at any given time. I also have 5 kids and not a lot of brain cells left. And sometimes you just get things a little switched up. So I love to have chat review my meeting notes or the transcripts and sometimes even the call notes. I love to take what my assistant has provided and have chat compare it against what I said in the call and just make sure that we haven't missed any steps or anything like that. And I love to have chat check my go-to-market plans once they're fully formed, just to make sure that I'm not missing any resources I could be more easily accessing. And I almost always am. There's almost always something that it finds that my own go-to-market strategy did not include. So that's probably 3 of a million things that I use it for.
Awesome.
I'm a big fan.
Love it, love it, love it. Last question, Heather, and we'll wrap up the show. After all your success, helping all the people you've helped, how do you best stay centered in your values and also stay encouraged to charge forward to reach even higher heights?
That is an excellent question that I had not really thought about. My kids are sick of hearing me say this, and I'm sure my employees are too, but my mentality in life is quite simple. It's you're going to find what you're looking for. And that just bleeds into everything, business, your relationships, your children, your marriage, your work teammates, everything. How you structure your life, you're going to find what you're looking for. So if you're looking for the positive, if you're looking for the challenge, if you're looking for a fight, if you're looking for something specific, you're going to find it. So just set your mindset correctly in the first place.
Heather Park, it's been more than a pleasure. Thank you so much. This is amazing. We've spent over 40 minutes, and I'm sure our listeners are loving every part of it. If they want to get in touch with you, oh, by the way, keep doing what you're doing. Keep helping the entrepreneurs. Keep going all in on the niche on HubSpot. Keep pushing because people, entrepreneurs and business owners need this. This is so, so big. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, what's the best place for them to find you?
Definitely our website, geeklymedia.com. Contact us button on the top right. It'll come straight to one of our team members and they'll pull me in.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather Park. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build It to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Strategies podcast and YouTube channel. Hey, we're on this journey with you, the successful investor and entrepreneur, to help you scale from millions to billions. And what a better way to do it, but working with a Heather Park to help you with this. Entrepreneurs need to scale, streamline their operations. If you want to get to billions, there's no other way around it. It's key, foundational. And we're on that journey with you. And so this is why we bring on people like Heather to talk about this. As well, we want to encourage you to keep practicing a mindset of stewardship or ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. And if you do that, We know you'll be a success. You'll have a huge impact. I'm Brett Swartz. I appreciate everyone listening or watching out there. If we could be of any service to you for exiting highly appreciated assets to streamline your capital gains tax exit plan, look at building a capital gains tax exit plan at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to have an extra 20 to 50% more working for you and to be invested at your own timing. Eliminate the need for the 1031 exchange. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening or watching, and we'll talk to you all real soon. Bye now.